Hi everyone, and welcome to the Academic Writing Dissection, a GPS example presentation. Now that you've been introduced to the guiding metaphor that we'll be using throughout the semester of GPS and academic writing, I wanted to look at an excerpt from an article and see how many of these features that we've just been learning about, how many of those we can actually identify in just a few paragraphs. So to begin with, let's make sure that we all are on the same page with some definitions. So we have the word dissection, which is a noun, and to dissect, which is a verb. Basically, it means cutting something apart or separating something into pieces in order to understand how it works internally, in order to analyze it and determine analyze and examine it one part at a time. And in our case, we're going to analyze a text so that we can interpret it in minute detail. We have a beautiful picture of a flower dissection here. So we've got the inside look of the flower, and then we've got all of the different parts of the flower identified. So that's what we're going to be doing with this excerpt. This excerpt is available on Moodle. You can download it and look at it electronically, or you can print it off so that you can read along as we go through this video, or you can read it and take notes on it yourself later. So let's do some academic writing dissection. All right, so going along with the GPS metaphor, I want to look at some things in this excerpt that are very clear. And you can see this is my dissection in lots of different colors with notes in the margins. And I hope it's not too messy for you to be able to make sense of. But I have it here larger, so hopefully that'll be easier as we go through this video. So let's go back to our list here. These are some of the things that we're going to be identifying. We're going to be looking for a starting point. We're going to be looking for an indication of what kind of journey we're going to be taking or the destination, and step-by-step directions, step-by-step information, along with satellite support or outside sources. We're going to be looking for organization and the relevance of the information that's presented. We're going to be looking at signal phrases. And then lastly, we're going to be looking at some local writing points along with these more global issues in writing. We're going to be looking at these the local issues. All right, so let's get started. Whoops. Okay, so the very first thing we want to know is the starting point and where we're going. So where we're starting and where we're going to end up. So in this very first paragraph, the author, Heather Burns, does a really great job of telling us as readers exactly where she's going, where she's starting from, and where she's going to take us as readers. So this first sentence says, post-secondary institutions are shaping students' worldviews, attitudes, leadership skills, participation levels in the community, decision-making, and interactions with ecosystems. So it makes sense that more and more colleges and universities are focusing on the goals of sustainability. So right away, she's giving us an indication. We are starting with the topic of sustainability, but within post-secondary institutions and how they are, what kind of pedagogies they're using to work towards the goals of sustainability, to teaching those goals. The rest of the paragraph, she does a really great job of giving us more information about sustainability, what it means, and what's been happening within this field. All of that leads us to her research question, or essentially the thesis, which is the last paragraph of this introduction. She says, how can post-secondary educators effectively address troubling and increasingly well-known problems in ways that transform learners and empower them to make decisions based on a sense of civic responsibility and sustainability? So that's her question. And then the next paragraph, she gives us an indication of where we as readers can expect to go and what kind of organization we can expect to follow. So she says, this paper draws on a research study that addresses these questions by taking a descriptive stance and an in-depth look at the implementation of sustainability pedagogy within 2 post-secondary courses. So right away, we know what this paper is doing. It's looking at a research study involving 2 post-secondary courses within this field of sustainability pedagogy. The next sentence gives us a clear indication of the kind of organization that we can expect in the paper. She then says the following provides 1, a theoretical outline of the pedagogical model used in the study, 2, reviews the methodology and some key results of the study, and 3, concludes with a discussion of implications for the implementation of transformative sustainability pedagogy in higher education settings. So right there, she has given us as readers a clear path that we can expect. We've got 3 main sections, and right away, she brings us to the first step, right? The first stop in our path. So we've got the theoretical framework, the Burns model of sustainability pedagogy, which is the theoretical outline of this pedagogical model she talks about. Okay, so next on our list, we're looking for some step-by-step direction. And if we go to the second page, this paragraph gives us a really great example of step-by-step direction. It's very simple, but it's very clear. The beginning of the paragraph starts with a topic sentence that gets directly to the point, just like in the introduction. So immediately we know what the topic of the paragraph is. So we've got the Burns model of sustainability pedagogy has 5 dimensions, each of which is rooted in learning theory. So right there, it's very clear. We're talking about this, this model. It has 5 dimensions, and it's rooted in learning theory. And then she continues with each of those 5 dimensions. She then continues on in the paragraph, giving some additional information about this model and the goals that this model has for learners. And then, again, it continues in a very organized way. These multiple goals, A, B, C, D, and E. So this is an example of really great step-by-step direction. All right, the next thing on our list, we're going to be looking at organization, which we've seen an example here, and relevance of information. And as you can see in this example, all the information here is very relevant to the topic sentence, to the topic of the paragraph. It's directly related to it. There's nothing in here that isn't related to that. And the same thing is true throughout the rest of these few paragraphs. Here's another example of some great organization. The beginning of this paragraph says, the topic sentence says, the Burns model of sustainability pedagogy was developed to address the need for a practical way to effectively teach sustainability. So again, this is a great topic sentence. It gets directly to the point, and it gives us readers an indication of the topic for the rest of the paragraph. And then the rest of this information deals with helping to explain and give more information about this model. All right, the next thing we're looking for is signal phrases. And if we go back to the paragraph on the second page, we've got some really simple examples of signal phrases. Now remember, signal phrases are a way that the writer indicates to the reader how to interpret and or connect the information that's presented. Essentially, how to drive down the road, right? So if we go back to this topic sentence, we've got these 5 dimensions, and immediately we've got very clear signal phrases. We have first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. So again, these are very simple. There are many other signal phrases that we can use as writers, but this example is very, very clear. It gives us, as readers, we know exactly how to connect to these pieces of information. All right, the last thing we want to look at are some of the local writing points. And I want to start with title caps. So this is, we skipped satellite support. Oh, we got to go back to satellite support. Okay, so you'll notice that we also have circled here, we've got some citations. And all of these citations are from additional outside sources. these outside sources are used to help support or explain or validate the information that Burns is sharing so far. Other parts of this paper might not have as many sources listed, but in order to really present information and show that it is well researched and it's relevant, she does use these citations to show where she's gotten this information from. And if you notice, this is done in APA style. So we've got the name, these two authors. We've got the name, ampersand, the other name, comma, year of publication within parentheses. Here's another one. This is a single author. We've got the last name, comma, year of publication. And we've got period at the end of the in-text citation. On this next page, we've got multiple sources that are essentially talking about the same thing. So if we look down here, we've got Dewey, comma, 1938, semicolon, Kolb, comma, 1984. So those are two different sources being separated with a semicolon within some parentheses with a period at the end. All right. Now, let's go back to the other local issue. We've got title caps. Now, even though this is in APA style doesn't necessarily use title caps, but sometimes the criteria for publication can differ depending on the author or the publisher. So they might have very specific formatting rules, so make sure to do your research. In the title here, we've got the first letter of almost every word capitalized. So these are called title caps. We only have of and in that are not capitalized. Normally, prepositions and very small words like that are not capitalized, but every other word in this title is capitalized. All right, punctuation. Let's look at some punctuation. We've looked at some of the punctuation already within the in-text citations, but I want to show you another example of the correct use of a colon and some semicolons. If we look at the last part of this paragraph, the difference between a colon and a semicolon in use is a colon is kind of like an MC, an announcer. So saying, let me draw your attention to something, let me introduce something, and then it gets off the stage. All right, and then the performer can actually get on. A semicolon acts a little bit more like a police officer. So a semicolon is stronger than a comma, but not as strong as a period. And it's essentially used to help create order between things. And as you can see, we've got a colon introducing these five goals for learners, and we've got a colon separating each one of these goals, because this is a really long sentence. So semicolons help us to be able to follow these 5 different goals. All right, that's the end of this section. We will talk about parallelism in part 2 of this video. So go ahead and stop this and then go to the next one.